Make a plan. Think through your design by asking yourself some questions. What colors work well together? What colors work well together if you plan on layering colors? If you paint your entire vessel a dark color and you layer a lighter color on top, will it show up once it's fired? Glazing is always a bit unpredictable, and you never really know what you're going to get until it comes out of the kiln. So make your plan and do your best, but be open to the idea that it may not turn out exactly as planned. Once you've thought things through, it's time to get to work. First things first. What makes sense to do first? Are you going to paint your entire vessel one solid color? If so, paint that big space first so it has some time to dry before painting any details on top. Are you planning on painting 2 or more colors side by side? If the first color is still wet and you begin painting your second color, they will most likely mix if they touch. If you don't want them to mix, then it might be wise to paint one and move to a different area to give that first space time to dry. If you have some really detailed parts that will take some time, get started on those fairly early so you have time to do them well. 2 to 3 coats. What usually makes or breaks many people's glazing outcome is how many layers of glaze they apply. One layer of glaze might look okay today, but once it gets fired, that one layer often looks streaky, uneven, and sloppy. In order to achieve an even, uniform color, you really need 2, or better yet, 3 coats or layers of glaze. That means whether you are painting a large space or painting a stripe, all areas need at least 2 to 3 coats of the color you are using. If you are planning on making dots, your dots need to be thick, or you need 2 to 3 coats of glaze on each dot. Brush size. Look at the brushes available to you and pick the right ones for each job. Do you have a big space to fill? Choose a large brush that will hold a decent amount of glaze to help you cover the area with 3 coats quickly and evenly. Do you have some finer detail work to do? Then choose a smaller brush that will give you greater control over where your glaze will go. Painting tips. Use standard painting techniques that we always talk about. Keep your brush like a ballerina up on her tippy toes. Please do not smash your bristles while painting. If your brush feels dry and scratchy and you don't see much happening while you paint, you need to refill your brush with more glaze. Keep your brush clean and dry. Wet brushes will water down your glaze and make it very runny. Once you clean your brush in the water, be sure to dry it on the paper towel before picking up your next color. Pay close attention to the consistency of each glaze. Some colors are really thick while others are a little bit more runny and watery. Be aware of the consistency so you don't end up with drips, and if you feel like you need to thin out some of the thicker ones by getting your brush a little wetter first, then do that. Jungle Gems. For those students opting to use a Jungle Gems color today, that will be the glaze in the larger bowl on your tray. You will notice some tiny bits of grit-like particles in your glaze. You need those. That is what blooms to become your tiny flecks of color. If you feel like you don't see many of those showing up on your vessel, you might need to stir up the glaze in the bowl because those flecks are heavier than the base glaze and they tend to sink down to the bottom. You also need 2 to 3 coats of the Jungle Gems color to achieve the full effect. Look everywhere. Remember, you are glazing a 3-dimensional object, so you need to constantly check your vessel from every angle. Use your messy mat to help you spin your vessel so you can see all the sides. Look inside, look near the bottom. If you see any just plain white bisqueware showing through, you need to put glaze on it, especially on the rim of your vessel. You want to make sure your inside color meets and touches your outside color. Go with the flow. Sometimes unexpected things happen, and as an artist, it's our job to come up with a creative solution. For example, I ended up with a big drip that I was not planning on, so I just added a few more to kind of make it look like it was all a part of my plan all along. And actually, I kind of like it a little bit better than my original idea anyways. That's what we call a happy accident. If you have colors that mix or a detailed area that didn't quite go as planned, maybe you paint over it with a darker color to just hide the mistake. In the end, if you've given your best effort, you should be proud of your work and excited to see how it turns out once it makes its last trip through the kiln.